ladies and gentlemen, and friends. Today afternoon, as we are in this particular webinar, the first thing that comes to one's mind is, am I immune from cyber fraud or cybercrime? Ask 10 Indians, and chances are almost 5 or 6 will say that they are not concerned with cyber fraud or cybercrime. But then this figure is changing quickly. In the next few years, we'll expect that 8 out of 10 Indians are likely to say that they are concerned about cybercrime and cyber fraud. And why do we say this? We say this because India as a nation is bleeding like all other nations because of these cyber crimes and cyber frauds. The year 2023 was most significant because, as per one survey, the world lost more than $6 trillion thanks to these cyber frauds and cyber crimes. But that figure is not stopping. It is expected that by the end of the year 2024, the world should be losing more than $8 trillion to cybercrime and cyber fraud. And that being so, this figure is further likely to be enhanced to $10.5 trillion by the end of 2025. So we have to realize the sociological and historical shift and evolution of our times. The defining moment as far as our lifetimes has been the COVID-19. COVID-19 gave us two gifts that will now be an integral part of our lives for the rest of our lives. These two gifts are that of fear and panic. And much that COVID-19 has subsided, fear and panic continues to be with us for the rest of our lives. Cyber criminals have understood this primarily new fact, and therefore they have started weaponizing both fear and panic to target individuals. Post-COVID-19, a new world has emerged. I call it the new cyber world order. This is the new cyber world where three things are going to be predominant. Number one, cybercrime will be our daily companion. Number two, cyber security breaches will be the new normal. And number three, states will become very powerful. In this ecosystem, we suddenly start realizing that post-COVID-19, cyber frauds and cybercrime have taken a massive swing in the up direction. And that being so, cyber criminals are today coming up with new mechanisms to defraud people out of their monies, out of their hard-earned life savings, and the like. Recently, a new kind of cybercrime has emerged, which is a classical combination of different earlier versions and avatars of cybercrimes. This is the digital arrest cybercrime. In digital arrest, you get a phone call from some unknown number, and then the person wants you to switch on to a video call. You switch on your video call, and you find on the other side a person dressed in the uniform of a police officer, saying that they have intercepted a parcel which contains drugs, narcotic or psychotropic substances, which is connected with your Aadhaar, your bank details, your passport number, and therefore they are handing it to yet another cybercrime police officer. The phone gets handed over to another guy who's also in police uniform. And the guy says that we are going to book you and you'll be many years behind bars. So we are watching you. Be careful. If you want to be out of this mess, give us monies, transfer at this place, and we will not register cases. People get feared. They panic and they decide to hand over their money to the so-called accused. Well, the fact of the matter is that these digital arrest cases are primarily preceded by a lot of effort. They profile you, they know you have the capacity to pay, and that's the reason they try to make you a target of a digital arrest. Recently, one of the victims of this kind of a digital arrest matter landed up giving 3.4 crore rupees out of his bank account to the different accounts of cyber criminals. Imagine losing 3.4 crore rupees. And then you realize that you have been made a victim of cyber fraud. Cyber fraud is prevalent all across. And cyber criminals are constantly evolving in their strategy, in their methodology and approach. And now with the coming of artificial intelligence, cyber criminals have got a God-sent gift. They are now using artificial intelligence for the purposes of generating new kinds of cyber attacks, cyber crime cases, and cyber frauds. We all use ChatGPT these days. How many of us are aware that there is a program called Fraud GPT, which allows you the ability to generate any kind of fraudulent activity? Well, you do that using prompt command engineering, but that's the new age that we have actually come inside. Now, most of the time in India, people have a mindset. People believe cybercrime will happen to others. It can never happen to me. Very quickly, we have to realize that we have to come out of this mindset. Why? Because cybercrime is universal and everybody is a potential victim. Therefore, the quicker you start seeing and acknowledging yourself as a victim of cybercrime, the better it's going to be. Well, at the end of the day, at the OTT serials, one of the serials has a very remarkable byline. The serial is on a particular place that's seeing a lot of cybercrime activity, and its byline is Sabka Number Aega. Well, everybody's number is going to come in the context of them becoming a victim of cybercrime. So cybercrime is predominant and is continuing to grow with each passing day, month and year. And the things have changed so dramatically. I remember the time when I was the counsel for the complainant in India's first cybercrime conviction in the year 2003. Now, at that point of time, trying to get a cybercrime conviction was a tall order. We were successful. We were able to get a conviction in the case of a matter where a call center employee had gone ahead and misused the credit card of an American girl for the purposes of defrauding her and for the purposes of buying a color television and a cordless headphone. But those days were simple days. He was an amateur, so he landed up leaving behind footprints. He himself got his own self clicked with the delivery man who came to deliver these products. And consequently, this Central Bureau of Investigation was quick to reach out to him, arrest him, but he got out on probation. As the court said, he's a first-time offender, and therefore, let's take him out on probation. That was 2003. From 2003 till 2024, the journey has been monumental, to say the least. The quantum of cyber crimes has grown at an unprecedented, phenomenal pace. But certain things have not changed. In the year 2000, there also we had certain categories of cybercrime. Today also new categories have emerged, but broad categories remain the same. There are cybercrimes against persons when you target a particular person, like cyber defamation, cyber nuisance, cyber stalking. There are crimes like cyber crimes against property when you target a particular property, whether it's hacking, cracking, damage to computer source code. And then there are cyber crimes against nations, whether it's cyber terror or cyber war, to say the least. These have been three classical categories of cybercrimes. Though now, with the advent of technology, we've now seen two more additional categories. The first category is social media cybercrimes, which are only dedicated to criminal activity on social media. And the fifth category is the latest emerging category known as artificial intelligence crimes or AI enabled crimes, where criminal activity is done on the internet using artificial intelligence, or artificial intelligence powers the criminal activities of cyber criminals. Now, when I look at these five categories, there's a lot of overlap, but these are some broad buckets under which you can go ahead and classify various cyber crimes. So, crimes are increasing. From the time we got our first cybercrime conviction till now, we've only had a handful of cybercrime convictions. And the Indian cybercrime conviction ratio is less than 1%. So in a scenario like this, the question that comes up for your consideration is, what is the legal position on these cyber frauds? Can I book these guys for cyber fraud? And can I get my money back? These are three fundamental questions that come in the mind of any potential victim of cybercrime or cyber fraud. So first things first, on cybercrime legalities, let's realize one fundamental scenario, that India does not have any dedicated law on cybercrime. We have a law on cyber, being the Information Technology Act 2000, which is India's mother legislation on the electronic format. And in this, we have Chapter Roman 11, where various cybercrimes have been detailed therein. We also had amendments to the Indian Penal Code by the Information Technology Act, and we added various cyber or electronic enabled crimes as part of the Indian Penal Code. And that journey went on from the year 2000 till 1st of July 2024, when new criminal laws have come in. And the Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita today, which has been implemented in India, has got substantial coverage of the electronic elements to bring various cyber crimes within the ambit of the law. But the problem has been the IT Act earlier in the year 2000 was more stringent. A majority of cyber crimes were non-bailable offences. So we were able to get some deterrence. But now, post-2008, we found that barring a couple of cyber crimes, almost all cyber crimes became as bailable offences. People got out on bail as a matter of right. And what did they do? Once they came out on bail, the first thing they did was to go ahead and destroy the relevant electronic evidence, which is incriminating, so that no conviction can take place. No wonder Indian cybercrime conviction ratio is so poor. Meanwhile, there have been developments taking place. The law on electronic evidence was not settled till such time it came in the year 2014, when the Supreme Court, in the case of Anwar PV versus PK Bashir, for the first time laid down the law on electronic evidence. This law further got to be challenged, and you had some divergent viewpoints in other judgments of the Supreme Court. For example, in the case of Shafi Muhammad versus Union of versus State of Himachal Pradesh. So finally, in order to settle all these issues, the Supreme Court came up with a full bench landmark judgment in the case of Arjun Pandit Rao Khotkar versus Kailash Ghorantyal. Here, for the first time, Supreme Court has reiterated in a full bench that Section 65B of the Evidence Act is a distinctive code in its own self and has to be mandatorily complied with in case if you want to go ahead and prove any electronic evidence. But then that was the year 2021. From 1st of July 2024, we now have a new set of criminal laws, three new criminal laws, out of which there is Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita, and then there is Bharatiya Saksha Abhiniyam, which has gone ahead and replaced the Indian Evidence Act. And now under this, we have new kind of requirements for certification of electronic evidence under Section 63 thereof. So, proving electronic evidence is getting more challenging in courts of law. And the benefit for that is going to the accused people who are potentially being accused of cybercrimes. Further now, with new coverage of the electronic format under the Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita 2023 or BSA 2023, we now realize that we are in a new stage of evolution. The new laws are more broader than the earlier laws, but we still will have teething problems, a time of interregnum, where a lot of these doubts about the applicability of these provisions are going to be tested and finally settled. But meanwhile, cyber criminals are not waiting. They are going ahead and continuously using new technologies for empowering their cybercrime operations, for the purposes of automating their cybercrime activities, and for the purposes of getting as much money out of the pockets of individuals, law-abiding citizens, innocent people that they can. So cyber fraud continues to be the predominant color of cybercrime. Whether the fraud is meant ultimately for getting your monies, or whether the fraud is meant for the purposes of having access to your data. Either way, the fraudulent activity ultimately is aimed at unauthorizedly accessing your computers, computer systems, computer networks, computer resources, communication devices, as also data and information in the electronic form, and depriving you of your lawful property, hard-earned monies, of your rupees and dollars. So clearly, new avatars of cyber frauds are emerging. We have to be careful and cautious because please realize cybercrime post-COVID-19 has become a cottage industry. Earlier, we only used to think of one Jamtara, which was the cybercrime capital of India. And then Jamtara got eclipsed by Noon in Haryana, which became the new cybercrime capital of the country. But post-COVID-19, we found that cybercrime has started becoming a cottage industry. It started getting replicated, proliferated, and growing at phenomenal growth in every rural area, semi-rural, semi-urban areas. So much so that now cybercrime gangs have evolved everywhere. These cybercrime gangs know that the law has not been very effective, and that even if the law comes after them, they will have huge kind of opportunities to be not convicted because of the huge challenges that the prosecution is going to have in terms of producing and proving the relevant electronic evidence. So in a scenario like this, we suddenly realize that deterrence is now not available in the online legislative frameworks. The IT Act, barring 3 cybercrimes, has made all cybercrimes as bailable offences. So once you have given bail as a matter of right, then people are not going to be afraid of the law. And that's the reason why there's a massive quantum jump in cybercrime incidences in India. And now, with mobile revolution sprawling across the country, cyber criminals are laughing all the way to the bank. Cyber criminals are also mindful of the fact that 2 new sociological developments are taking place in India, which are also contributing to more cybercrime. One is a phenomenon that I call the Great Indian Vomiting Revolution. Indians are vomiting data about their personal, professional, social lives on the internet without even thinking about the ramifications for the same. Number 2, there's another new revolution that's happening, the Great Indian Recording Revolution, where Indians seem to be recording all kinds of information without understanding the cyber security ramifications for the same. Now, because we are in this unique position and because of our growing dependence on the technological paradigm, we are now finding that we are all getting more susceptible, more vulnerable to potential cybercrime attacks. And today, trying to track down the exact cyber criminals who are behind the cybercrime targeted against you is a tall challenge. Why? Because cyber criminals are using the latest technologies. Well, they're using virtual private networks, they're using artificial intelligence, And why not? Go to the darknet and you find that cybercrime as a service powered by artificial intelligence has become the de facto norm of the darknet today. So, therefore, in this scenario, we very quickly have to realize that if we have to make any meaningful impact in the struggle against cybercrime, we will have to do numerous things together. Numerous strategies will have to be implemented together. Number one, the laws will have to be amended to make them more topical, more relevant, and having more deterrence against cybercrime. Number two, the Information Technology Act particularly will have to be amended to make it uh, more focused on having a deterrent impact on cyber criminals. Number three, the law on electronic evidence has become far more complicated, and therefore the onerous job before the prosecution in producing and proving electronic evidence is a tall challenge. We will have to somehow look at that and simplify the legal processes. Number four, I think it's time to create more capacity building amongst people about the growing menace of cybercrime, of cyber fraud. And for that, it can only happen when the government and the various private sector ecosystem stakeholders come together. Everybody has to contribute in creating more awareness about cybercrimes, the newly emerging avatars, and their distinctive manifestations and ramifications. Ultimately, users have to also realize that they will have to start adopting cybersecurity as a way of life as we move forward. Why? You cannot have a mindset that I can do anything on my system, on my device. But then whatever happens, it will be the responsibility of the government to go ahead and protect cybersecurity. Sorry, that doesn't work this way. We are all part of a big cybersecurity chain, and we are links, and we have to make sure that we don't become the weakest link in the chain. Therefore, we will have to start adopting cybersecurity as a part of life, as a way of living as we go forward. The time has also now come where artificial intelligence is being used for defrauding you. Deepfakes are getting more and more perfect, and the chances of you being uh, defrauded as a result of reliance on a deepfakes are going to be high. Then, in such a scenario, when there's so much of misinformation, falsities, rumors spreading all around you on the internet, how do you go ahead and prepare yourself? I think the best way forward is to make sure that you adopt a culture of saying no. You adopt a culture of suspecting, distrusting, and mistrusting every information that you see, till such time you have not independently verified the authenticity, veracity, or correctness of the same. Why? Because now with so much of content, false content being generated by AI, if you are only going to be relying upon looking is believing, then you are going to be deceived. You will have to do your due diligence on any documentation, on any information before you can go ahead and rely upon the same. Because in the coming times, it's only going to be AI that will going to be driving a lot of criminal activity. Already, AI is powering a large number of cyber crimes on the darknet. And therefore, all of us will have to be more prepared to deal with this in a more holistic, open-minded, and futuristic manner. So let's not wait for laws to change. Laws will take their own time to change. Let's learn to be ruthlessly careful about our own monies, our own data, our digital presence, and our digital footprints. Let's learn not to leave behind footprints which can be used by cyber criminals for tracking you or targeting you. Let's learn to adopt cyber due diligence as a way of life, to adopt care and caution as part of your day-to-day cyber hygiene methodologies. And finally, let's be alive to the fact that there are always chances that you can become a victim of cybercrime. But even if you become a victim of cybercrime and cyber fraud, that does not mean that that's the end of the matter. Sorry. Certain new remedies are legally available to you. The moment you realize that you have become a victim of a cyber fraud, you need to not be quiet and report this. Where do you report? Two places. You can either call up the National Cybercrime Helpline number at 1930 and report it. This helpline is manned by police officers. Number two, you can also report this to the National Cybercrime Reporting Portal at cybercrime.gov.in. And you can lodge an online complaint and get an online acknowledgement. If you lose your money as a result of cyber fraud on account of transactions that you have not done, then Reserve Bank of India also comes to your rescue. Reserve Bank of India has issued a notification of 6th of July 2017. It's called the Zero Liability Notification, which effectively says that if you are the victim of an unauthorized transaction that you have not done or which has not been done as a result of your negligence, then if you report the said unauthorized transaction within a period of 72 hours to the concerned bank or credit card company, then you will not be liable to pay any monies, and the entire monies are going to be refunded into your account by the concerned bank or credit card company. If you report after 3 days, but within 10 days, you are entitled to get 90% of your money back. But in case if you report after 10 days, then you can at best only hope for some refund as per the existing policies of the bank. So the RBI has effectively tried to give effective remedies to victims of cyber frauds through the zero liability notification. You need to be aware of that. You need to also not delete or obliterate or evaporate electronic proof that are incriminating evidence to show cyber fraud happening against you. In fact, that is the evidence that's going to be relied upon by the police as they go forward. So all said and done, we have various remedies available. Yes, we can do much better, but till such time as the new legal frameworks come in and become more effective, the onus will be upon us to take appropriate precautions to ensure that we do not become as victims of cyber crimes. Therefore, whatever little or more digital detox that you can do, it's a great idea. Whatever information that you are sharing online, if that can be limited or eliminated, that's the best for you. Ultimately, let's realize it that the more cyber resilient we are, the more cautious we are, the lesser the chances that we become victim of cyber frauds. These cyber frauds will continue to keep on increasing. Internet has made geography history, and now people can sit anywhere in the world and target you with their fraudulent activities. So every day during your cyber activities, during your cyber transactions, adopt caution, care, due diligence as your guiding mantra. Once you are doing this on a religious basis, on a daily exercise, then to a large extent, you can avoid becoming a victim of cybercrime. As they say, cybercrime, everywhere, nowhere to grow, nowhere to go. That's absolutely correct. But then you cannot really have absolute control on how cybercrime will continue to go. However, you can definitely take cogent steps to protect yourselves from becoming victims of cybercrime. So let's be careful. Let's be duly diligent. Let's owe a responsibility to our own selves and to our family members that we do not contribute to cybercrime, that we do not become careless and become victims of cybercrime, and that we do not contribute, abet, or conspire in any manner whatsoever towards activity which can be deemed as cyber crimes under the prevailing laws in different countries. Well, it's an elaborate subject. I just thought I'll share some of these key parameters, but ultimately, with AI coming in, the more careful you are, it's your common sense that's going to protect you from becoming a victim of cyber frauds and cyber crimes in the coming times. Thank you, friends, for giving me this opportunity to share my perspectives. With that, it's over to you, Madam Chairperson.